Well, welcome one and all to Bike Racing Without Mercy. This week, for the last 8 days, I've been undertaking a little experiment to test how I feel my cycling sensations at various different parts of my power curve. And that's why you find me just embarking on the second block of 20 minutes at FTP, proper emotional. Now I reckon my FTP lies somewhere between 275 and 290 watts. I've got it set at an ambitious 290 here, and obviously that's well above my anaerobic threshold of 234 and my lactate threshold around 260. So I know there's only a set amount of work, energy, kilojoules I can expend at this kind of effort. So it's going to bite. To bring you up to date with the training since completing the 1 month block of tempo with VO2 max surges, well, the training for the Mallorca 312 continues apace. By the way, the link is in the description to Maury at All Things Ride, the lovely Maury, if you want to take advantage of his excellent offer, £550 for 4 nights half board accommodation on the island and taking part in the event. It's going to be a beautiful, beautiful event, stunning scenery, lovely people. So after completing the training block, 1 month's worth, times 8, tempo with VO2 max surges, over the Christmas period, I decided to enjoy myself on the bike. And for me, that means really tempo through low threshold, i.e. sweet spot you could call it. I just like the feel of it, don't know why. And as you saw, I did a bit of that with Lee Baxter in the beautiful Lake District. Do check out the video, Winter Wonderland. And then, back in London, continued the climbing theme here on Zwift, with basically a lot of hill repeats on the forward and reverse KOM, epic KOM in Watopia, including the alleged bonus climb to the radio tower. Loved it. Got in, a lot of training and a lot of actual elevation. It is a really good way to train. Experimented out the saddle, in the saddle, different cadence. Really enjoyed myself. And then, well, the gears on my trusty WattBike Atom stopped working. The engineer has literally just come out and fixed them. Therefore, I was faced with an uncomfortable choice. Keep riding indoors, but using my old enemy, okay, Frenemy ERG mode, or brave the cold outside. I decided to do both. ERG mode is actually pretty well suited to laying down large blocks of power, because the lag for the resistance to come up to the required level is not as much of an interference on a long interval as, say, a short 30 to 120 second interval. So I decided to experiment with my power curve. And 8 days ago, I podded over on the Colnago to London's Olympic Velo circuit to take on an hour of power and then an hour of tempo. Check out the training now. Well, it sure is cold, but with the gears and the WattBike not working, it's time to hit some laps at Lee Valley Velo Park. Oh, please let it be open. You are open. It said you were going to be open. It's open. So 92 kilometres on the clock, about 80 of those here at the Velo circuit in the last couple of hours. I started off with an hour of power, averaged about 273 watts, 4.2 watts a kilogram, and to be honest I didn't have very much more in me, well, nothing left in me really for that. But I was able to transition into another hour at tempo, 225 watts average, so the diesel engine's in good nick. There you go, look at the little pistons there. Absolutely shattered, but you know, happy that all the tempo with surge work and a bit of the sweet spot stuff that I did over Christmas, well, seems to be paying off. I'm back home, and boy, now I'm ready for my lunch. Well, it was a beautiful day, as you can see, cold but perfect for training. Now, I'd hoped to do more than 273 watts average for the hour, but looking back, it was a pretty decent training, especially including the transition from the hour of power into the hour at tempo, 225 watts, 247 watts over the 2 hours. That's brilliant for me, because that's the kind of fitness and endurance that counts on the longer events. Probably less power on the 312, for instance. So definitely for me, evidence that that block of tempo with VO2 max surge training not only built mental fortitude and top end power, but it also built the endurance nicely. As an FYI, on erg mode, I've also completed the longer sweet spot session for the second time on Zwift, adding 5 watts, 245 and 270 watt rotations. So the diesel engine at this stage of the year is in decent shape, thanks, I think, to the tempo with VO2 max. So in addition to testing 60-minute power and 10-minute power, on Monday I also tested my 5-minute power. Now, I wanted to complete the Gorby 5 times 5 minutes at 320 watts, 112% of FTP with 5 minutes recovery, but I mucked around in the gym, therefore I only had 35 minutes. So I did 4 times 5 minutes, but reduced the recovery to 3 minutes. It was emotional. Check it out. And now, adding in a little bit of intensity. On Saturday, I completed 4 times 10 minutes at 305 watts, 107% I reckon of FTP. Always a good test of mental fortitude. 5 minutes recovery between each of the 10 minutes efforts. Today, it's the Gorby, but a Gorby with a difference. I've only got 3 minutes recovery between each of the efforts rather than 5. It's targeting the low end VO2 max. So adding back in a bit of intensity after a period of about 3 weeks of sweet spot, this is hard. As was the 4 times 10 minutes. Gotta concentrate now. I'm on erg mode because the gears on the Atom aren't working. The engineer's coming out. And erg mode is really making me focus on the pedaling technique. You can't let up the cadence. Well, you let up the cadence at your peril. So good for building mental fortitude. You can feel the lactic now. No let up on the cadence. Needs to be on a call with work at 9. Time is pressing. Heart rate monitor clearly is garbage here. Needs a new battery. Oh, super hard. 2.5 more minutes recovery, and then the 4th and final. Next 5 minute block incoming. Here we go. Erg mode, taking time to get up to speed. That's why I don't often train with erg mode. But it's okay for 5 minute efforts and above, like this. You get a bit of a lag at the other end. So I reckon my FTP lies somewhere between 274 watts for the hour of power and 290. Over the next few weeks, I'm going to add in volume. Plus, I'll keep in some of the intensity in order to really try and build more fitness. and I'll properly retest my 1 hour FTP in about a month or so. The lactic kicks in earlier now. Heart rate monitor is working. Yeah, full gas. 3-minute warm down, then on the phone. I'm really happy to have got the 4 blocks of 5 minutes completed at the 320 watts with just a 3 minutes recovery between each of the blocks. Makes quite a big difference. And definitely all of that tempo with VO2 max surge work helps with the recovery between hard efforts. So combined with the 4 times 10 at 305 watts, this provides a bit of confidence that the threshold will come up quite nicely with a bit more volume, and hopefully I'll be able to improve on that 274 at the velo circuit, which, to be honest, isn't far out of line with what I typically do for an hour of power. It's anywhere from 270 to 285. Well, 285 is my absolute best. Outdoors, that is. Anyway, now time to put on a sweatshirt and get on the phone. As you can see, I've had to use Zwift Companion to drop the power to 270 to 275 for a while. I couldn't sustain the 290, and as I said, that isn't surprising because 290 is well above my anaerobic threshold and my lactate threshold. And as I say, there's a fixed amount of work and energy, kilojoules, that you can expend before you blow up when riding like that. So gradually going to eat the power back up. Oh, fingers crossed. Just back to 290, proper emotional. Really focusing on the cadence. Final minute. 30 seconds. So definitely that was a bit of a struggle today. Based on an FTP, and I'm not overly focused on FTP for reasons that I'll come to. I don't think my FTP is anywhere near 290 at the moment. You can see a very consistent 20 minutes at the 290 watts for the first block, but only lasted about 9 minutes for the second block, then dropped the power all the way down to 265 and gradually built it back up to 290 for the final 90 seconds. So let's have a look at the training peaks, 1 second. 3, you can see there, 290 watts, policed by good old Frenemy ERG mode, the recovery, and then the second block, better than I thought actually, 284 watts. So, you know, I'm encouraged by that, and really I had to dig in proper deep from about 9 minutes in to rescue it. But it just shows, just fettling down the power a little bit, just enables the body just to start clearing the lactate a little bit better, clearing the CO2 a little bit better, and you can kind of rediscover an equilibrium and build back from there, provided, I guess, you catch it in time, as fortunately I did there. We're going to build the power curve in a second, but yeah, clearly 1 hour power, 273 watts, 10-minute power, repeatable times 4, 305 watts, 5-minute power, repeatable, 320 watts, and here 20-minute power, semi-repeatable, somewhere between 280 and 290 watts. So that's quite interesting. The sensations felt pretty decent there, and I did learn certainly the value of probably bringing up the cadence a little bit higher. I've got into the habit of probably too low a cadence. On the live streams, you do start kind of dropping a cadence, sometimes into the high 70s, low 80s, and actually, for these kind of efforts, it is helpful to bring it up into the 90s through mid 90s, as I did. Well, you find me once again at the London Olympic Velo Circuit. Just completed a big tempo stroke sweet spot training session. 2 blocks of 30 minutes, overs and unders, averaging about 265 watts, 3 minutes recovery. Had a little puncture at the end of the second block, had to fix that. Then did a couple of blocks of 20 minutes, albeit the second block was lower power overall. 1 minute recovery between each of those. Definitely more so feeling the benefits of all the big sort of intervals, as it were, at and around threshold, a little bit above threshold for those 5-minute efforts on erg mode. Definitely, I've rediscovered the value of erg mode. It's no longer my frenemy, it's my MBF. And definitely, it's taught me the value of sustaining a higher and more consistent cadence. And that was certainly the case today, as it was yesterday, where alongside a bit more power discipline, I definitely had my best race on Zwift in some time. Afterburn course, you got to ascend the reverse KM in Innsbruck and the forward KM, and I had 2 really good climbs, more than 295 watts. That's excellent for me. Big block of tempo in the middle, and a half decent, I mean, you know, all things are relative, a half decent sprint. Anyway, who'd have thought it? Sometimes you've got to go back to the things that you've rejected, rediscover what was actually good about them in order to progress. So in conclusion, while it was a bit disappointing to lose the gears temporarily on the WattBike, they have now been fixed. The service from WattBike is always excellent. It's actually turned into a bit of a positive. It's kind of forced me to ride in erg mode at the 5, 10 and 20 minute power intervals. And I've really enjoyed it, sort of relearning the sensations, relearning the need to kind of dig in and just keep that cadence consistent. And I've got a much better idea as to really the power I'm really capable of sustaining for different intervals now on a kind of semi-repeatable basis. And definitely, as I've always kind of known, it creates disproportionate damage to me personally to go much above kind of the 270, 275 watts. I only have a really limited amount of time at that. Therefore, really looking forward to getting down to Oxford University to really dial in the testing against the physiology, the blood, the lactate, the gas exhaled, in order to kind of recalculate the different power zones I really should be training in. I definitely recommend a little experiment like this to those of you at home. You know, take the different powers you ought to be able to ride at based on your FTP, and try the Gorby, try the 4x10, try the 2x20 minutes. And if you really are a glutton for punishment, try the hour of power. I really like the hour of power. I think it's the most applicable kind of power for a big time trial in the mountains. And definitely once you know where your kind of hour of power lies, you know when you're outdoors, to try and stay, you know, some way below it. And obviously testing your anaerobic threshold, if you ever get the ability to do that in a lab, really reinforces that. Well, hopefully you enjoyed the video. If you did, give it a thumbs up. Please do like and subscribe. There's a little trip to Tenerife also coming. It's definitely not a training camp. It's a holiday. It definitely is a holiday, Jane, not a training camp. Coming in about a week and a half's time. As I say, there's a lab test in Oxford, plenty more to come. Really looking forward to the build up to the 312. In the meantime, whoever you are, whatever you do, please remember to live, thrive and stay healthy.